What's up everybody, Supersmallchibiwolf here, and today I'm going to be talking about and covering the wonderful world of variant gaming consoles with the Nintendo 64. So let's get into this. First thing I want to talk about are designs and colors. There are two N64 designs. There's the N64 the whole world knows, and then there's the one that China knows, which goes by the Nintendo IQ Player. This is a official Nintendo product, by the way. Long story short, this is a N64 with a different design. Instead of putting cartridges inside your console, the console itself connects through the internet using adapters and cables specifically for this. And once you're online, you could go to the store and purchase games through the service Nintendo provides. This is interesting because this service came out in 2003 and it lasted until 2018. So lasting that long is amazing, especially for a gaming console. The only gaming console that I could think of lasting that long is the Sony PlayStation 3 services, which is still going strong today in 2025. Besides that, China's N64 was also superior. It had better hardware, Wi-Fi capabilities, you can buy games digitally online. Now, a side thing I would say, when we think about gaming consoles and their, lifespans, they usually last not that very long compared to, the PS3 and this N64. So this is surprisingly amazing. Now for the real fun times, the Nintendo 64 or the real N64 that the whole world knows. Yep, let's get into this. There are 20 different consoles with their own unique designs, and some are rare. There's the original black with the gray controller, then there are like the cool ones like the Pikachu Nintendo 64. There's one that's like Japan only, then there's the Pokemon battle set that the whole rest of the world knows. Then there's the fantastic colored consoles like jungle green, blue, gray purple, fire orange, smoke, watermelon, clear white with red. So they wanted to be a little bit of a, having fun. Gold, Daihawk console, the Junko 30th anniversary console, the old Nippon Airlines ANA Air Raid console, which is interesting, they flying and gaming, the N64 Hyundai combo console, and finally the N64 Lawson Station console. A lot of these company consoles are lazy due to a lack of creativity, and they basically take a normal N64 and put their company logo as a sticker onto the console. So no unique controller or designs are there. In my opinion, I'm more into like the, fantastic consoles and the Pokemon ones as well. Those show more heart and creativity. Also, Nintendo 64 went all out this generation with console colors. I'm surprised that Nintendo didn't do a Super Mario or the Legend of Zelda themed console. But I'm happy that they did Pokemon themed consoles. That's really cool. Next is the Nintendo 64 and regions. So the Nintendo 64 has a switch and power supply, which by design can tolerate a wider range of voltages, so keep that in mind. So basically you can take a N64 imported from anywhere in the world and you can plug it in and enjoy it no matter where it's from and no matter where you are. So that's really cool. I personally had no issues with using N64s from different regions and countries, and even had a video where I modded my N64 just in case you're interested. There you go. Also, you have to basically take it apart, cut the things on the side, put it back together, and there you go. Play any game you want from anywhere in the world and enjoy. Next, I'm going to be talking about the Nintendo 64 accessories. If you plan to get an N64, the default memory card is the jumper pack. If you're really lucky, you'll get an expansion pack. The N64 won't even turn on if you don't have either a jumper pack or expansion pack. See it like a battery in the car. So, the expansion pack consists of 4 megabits of excess memory, increasing the N64's 4 megabits to 8 megabits of memory. The expansion pack is also very important to play specific games. It fixes bug issues and things like that. Things that developers either didn't know how to fix, couldn't figure it out, or they just wanted to get the game out at times. So, yeah, the games that support this are The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, Donkey Kong 64, and Perfect Dark. It also came bundled with a ejector tool to take it out easy. So, yeah, really cool. Next is the transfer pack. This allows you to transfer data between the N64 and Game Boy or Game Boy Color games. These are the more popular games and their uses. The first game is Pokemon Stadium. You can transfer your team from Pokemon Red, Yellow, and Blue to Pokemon Stadium. Then Nintendo did it again with Pokemon Stadium 2, where you can transfer your team from Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal to Pokemon Stadium 2. Now, real quick, a side thing, Pokemon Stadium 1 is really Pokemon Stadium 2, and Pokemon Stadium 2 is really Pokemon Stadium 3, depending where you are in the world. So yeah, that's Japan logic, so Stadium 1, 2. So basically, long story short, there's 3 Pokemon Stadium games. And let's hope that the next Nintendo Switch 2 has Pokemon Stadium 4. That would be amazing. Now, I want to talk about how the transfer pack reacts to the N64 to Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Only 2 games give benefits to the Nintendo Game Boy and Game Boy Color. You can transfer Mario Tennis Game Boy Color to the N64, but you can't transfer the N64 version characters to the Game Boy Color version. So, yeah. But when it comes to Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, it allows you to have more fun between the N64 and Game Boy Color games. You can transfer your cooler team, your team from Pokemon Stadium and fight alongside them, so that's really cool. Also, Pokemon Stadium unlocks a mini game in Pokemon Yellow. So that's really nice. An Easter egg that not a lot of people knew back then, which maybe they knew, I'm not sure. Now, I went into detail here due to Pokemon Stadium games being more popular. There are other games that support this as well, but that's just a whole nother long list, which I feel like covering the Pokemon games is more important, and Mario Tennis. Next is the Rumble Pack. This allows your controller to rumble, and it's the first rumble-related device ever. After this, other game companies like Sony started using it for their PlayStation controllers. Next is the Nintendo 64 microphone for games like Hey You Pikachu and Densha the Go. So, the microphone connects to the Nintendo VRU or voice recognition unit, and that helps it connect to the Nintendo 64. Next is the N64 mouse. It is used for games like Mario Artist games, SimCity 64, and the web browser for the Nintendo's dead online service called RadNet. Next is the Nintendo 64 keyboard, or the compact keyboard. It was for the RadNet service and compatible with the Nintendo 64 DD games. So, that's really cool and interesting. Next is the Nintendo 64 train controller. Yep, they had a train controller, and Taito released a train controller with the pulleys, left, right, spinnies, twisties, and so much more. So, interesting controller. Next is the Wide Boy 64. This continuing on the Super Nintendo version, allowing gamers to play Game Boy Advance games on the N64. Unlike many other things in this video, the Wide Boy 64 was only sold to developers, retailers, for display purposes, and the press. But there are Wide Boy 64s out there. You probably could find them in conventions if you're lucky, or online for a great price. Next is the RF switch and modulator. So, yeah. Next is the Euro connector plug. This converts RCA composite and stereo cables into composites card. Really fun. Nintendo, and I think this is really cool that they had this many options for connecting your TVs back in the day. Next is the Nintendo 64 cleaning kit. One was for the console and the other one is for the controller. So, nice. Then there's the Nintendo Video Capture Cassette. This was a special cartridge for Mario Artist 64 DD game series. The back of the cartridge has audio, video, and microphone inputs. It was bundled alongside with the Nintendo 64 DD game Mario Artist Talent Studio. Then there was the Nintendo Modem cartridge. This is a cartridge with a modem input to connect to the World Wide Web into your N64 using the defunct RadNet service, and capable with the 64 DD games and web browser as well. This was interesting and cool. I like this, how they had this stuff back then. Next is the Nintendo 64 DD. This was a 64 megabits floppy drive with a real-time clock font and audio library in ROM, and a bundle of other accessories and custom games. It released with the now dead online service called RadNet. I knew the N64 had a lot of accessories, but not this much, so I was surprised. The N64 keyboard was the most surprising thing, a keyboard on the 64. Really cool. So the 64 DD was a Japan exclusive N64 add-on, where the 64 sits on top of it, making the bottom screws useful and screwing it in. This was only released in Japan and it failed. There were only 10 games released for the 64 DD. There were the Mario Artist games such as Mario Artist Communication Kit, Paint Studio, Polygon Studio, Town Studio. Then F-Zero expansion kit. Then they did Doshin the Giant, Japan Pro Gold Tour 64, SimCity 64, Rev Limit, Rennet Disc, and finally Kyojo no Doshin, Kaiyo Sensen, Chikibo Daishinjo. So yeah, it was interesting. Also, over here, as you can see, I found this photo, a hardcore gamer from back in the day. They had all of that stuff. So I saw that picture that and the story that they were telling where I found this. So it was really cool and interesting. I enjoy seeing stuff like this. Also, the N64 system organizer where you could keep your games, controllers, and everything else, which is over here. Then they had this, the N64 carrying case to take the N64 on the go with friends. So that's really cool. Oh, they also had this, the N64 Super Mario 64 Edition camera. So nice. Next is the Nintendo 64 DD cartridges, large and different from the normal N64 game cartridges. Then they had the Dr. V64, which sat under the N64 and had the capability to play video CDs and audio CDs. It could play stereo 3D effects to the sound as well. This also came with a game cartridge to get around the N64's lockout chip, and it also had add-ons like the DX256 and the DS1. This allows save files to be made without using the inserted cartridges. This also can be used to read data from a game and transfer that to the PC using parallel port. It allows gamers to upload images from the computer to the 64. In 1998, the Dr. V64 Jr. was released. This was a condensed, cost-efficient version of the original. I think these things are cool and very interesting. I wouldn't want to buy it personally, but I would like to see, test it out, these things, and see how it works, I think it would be interesting to see, like, for example, the Mario Paint games, to see that in, like, real life. Of course, we could watch them video on YouTube and stuff, but to actually see it and, mess around with it, that's a whole different, feel to it, you know what I mean? So, yeah, overall, I think these are all wonderful and interesting things. Out of all things, to be realistic, I think the carrying case is something that I've seen something similar, like Sony and Sega related things, like in retro game stores. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like the easiest thing to find out there. You know what I mean? The N64 carrying case. But overall, to have all of this stuff, that just seems, in my opinion, a little bit overwhelming. So yeah, that's just how I see it. Let me know what you all think about all these things that I've discussed right now. So yeah. So after talking about the wonderful world of variant gaming consoles, the Nintendo 64, I had fun and I loved it. I learned stuff, I got to talk about stuff that I know and love, and we got to see many wonderful designs of the N64 consoles and controls. And one day I'll make my N64 collection video and stuff like that. Hey, maybe later this year I already have a thumbnail already made. But yeah, this was fun. And another thing, side thing, it's good to go back and remake videos. So it was great to come back and remake this video with a little bit more information and better audio quality. So let me know what you think about it. So with all that being that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time.